Ladies and gentlemen, anger is a potent emotion. It grips you, demanding your attention, and for good reason. It signals that something in your world is out of alignment. When you feel angry, it's as though your mind and body are sounding an alarm. But the question is, what do you do with it? Do you let it consume you, or do you let it guide you? Anger often emerges when your boundaries are breached, or when you perceive an injustice, either in your personal life or the world around you. And that's the key. Anger is a response, not a conclusion. It tells you, hey, something is wrong here, but it doesn't tell you what to do about it. That's your responsibility. First, you need to step back and ask yourself, why am I angry? What triggered this response? Often, anger is tied to something deeper, a fear, a frustration, or an unmet expectation. By understanding its source, you transform anger from a chaotic force into a clarifying one. Now, this doesn't mean anger is always bad. Quite the opposite. Anger has a purpose. It propels action. But if left unchecked, it becomes destructive. So you must learn to regulate it. Picture a wildfire. If you let it rage, it consumes everything. But if you channel it properly, it becomes the controlled fire that heats your home or cooks your food. Regulation begins with self-awareness. When you feel anger rising, pause, breathe, create space between the feeling and your reaction. This isn't weakness, it's strength. It's refusing to let your emotions control you. Instead, you take control of them. Then use that anger constructively. Ask yourself, how can I address the issue causing this emotion? Can I communicate my needs clearly? Can I stand firm without being cruel? This is where anger becomes a tool for growth. It can help you set boundaries, advocate for yourself, and fight for what matters. But there's a balance to strike. Anger without empathy becomes tyranny. You must temper your strength with understanding. When you approach anger with both conviction and compassion, you not only resolve conflict, but also build respect within yourself and in your relationships. So when you feel angry, don't fear it, don't suppress it, and don't let it rule you. Instead, listen to it, learn from it, and direct it. Because anger, when mastered, isn't just a reaction, it's a catalyst for transformation. Anger is a complex and powerful emotional response that arises when we encounter situations that challenge our values, cross our boundaries, or create a sense of perceived injustice. It is a primal emotion, deeply embedded in the human psyche, and has evolved to serve as a survival mechanism. At its core, anger is neither inherently positive nor negative. It is a signal, an indicator that something in our environment demands our attention or action. Understanding the nature of anger is a critical step in learning to navigate it effectively, ensuring that it serves as a constructive force rather than a destructive one. To truly grasp the nature of anger, it is essential to recognize its dual role as both a protector and a disruptor. On one hand, anger is a protective emotion. It alerts us when our personal boundaries, be they physical, emotional, or moral, are being encroached upon. For instance, when someone treats us unfairly or violates our trust, the anger we feel is an immediate, visceral response designed to make us aware of the transgression. This emotional surge is not random. It is the body and mind's way of signaling that action may be needed to restore balance or ensure safety. On the other hand, anger can be disruptive. Left unchecked, it can spiral into aggression, resentment, or impulsive behaviors that strain relationships and create conflict. It has the potential to cloud judgment, making it difficult to see situations clearly or respond with reason. This duality is what makes anger such a fascinating and challenging emotion. It holds immense potential for good, but can also lead to harm if not managed with care. The nature of anger is deeply tied to its physiological and psychological roots. When anger is triggered, the body undergoes a series of rapid changes. The heart rate increases, adrenaline surges, and the mind sharpens its focus. This response, known as the fight or flight mechanism, prepares us to deal with perceived threats. Historically, this was crucial for survival. allowing humans to respond quickly to danger. While we may no longer face the same life-threatening situations as our ancestors, this mechanism remains active, influencing how we react to modern stressors and conflicts. Anger is often misunderstood because it is seen as a negative emotion. Society tends to label anger as inappropriate or harmful, encouraging suppression rather than exploration. However, labeling anger as merely negative oversimplifies its nature. Anger is neither good nor bad, it is neutral. What determines its impact is how we respond to it. Suppressing anger can lead to internalized frustration and long-term resentment, while expressing it recklessly can damage relationships and escalate conflicts. The key lies in understanding its purpose and learning to channel it effectively. At its core, anger is a communicator. It tells us that something is wrong, either within ourselves or in our environment. For example, anger might arise when we feel unappreciated at work, signaling that our contributions are being overlooked. It might emerge in personal relationships when we feel disrespected or ignored, prompting us to address the imbalance. In these moments, anger acts as a catalyst for self-reflection and action. It pushes us to identify unmet needs or unresolved issues and motivates us to seek solutions. Understanding anger requires more than acknowledging its presence. It demands introspection. Often anger is a surface emotion, masking deeper feelings such as fear, sadness, or insecurity. For instance, a person might feel angry when criticized, but beneath that anger may lie a fear of failure or rejection. By examining the underlying emotions, we gain a clearer understanding of ourselves and the true source of our anger. This awareness is the first step toward using anger constructively rather than allowing it to dominate our actions. The nature of anger is also influenced by cultural and individual factors. Cultural norms shape how anger is expressed and perceived. In some cultures, open displays of anger are considered unacceptable, while in others they are seen as a natural part of communication. On an individual level, personality traits, past experiences, and learned behaviors play a significant role in how we experience and express anger. For example, someone who grew up in an environment where anger was met with punishment may suppress their feelings, while another person might have learned to use anger as a way to assert control. Recognizing the universality of anger can foster empathy and understanding. Everyone experiences anger, albeit in different forms and intensities. It is a shared human experience that transcends age, gender, and culture. Acknowledging this can help us approach anger, both our own and others, with greater compassion. Instead of seeing anger as an adversary, we can view it as a guide, pointing us toward areas in our lives that need attention or change. The nature of anger is multifaceted. It is a signal, a protector, a disruptor, and a motivator. It is deeply rooted in our biology and shaped by our experiences. By understanding its purpose and complexity, we can move beyond reacting impulsively to anger and begin to use it as a tool for growth, self-awareness, and positive change. Anger, when approached with curiosity and mindfulness, becomes not just an emotional response, but a powerful catalyst for transformation. Anger serves a purpose, one that is often misunderstood or overlooked in its raw and unfiltered expression. At its core, anger is not merely a reaction. It is a mechanism that has evolved to protect, motivate, and guide us. It signals when something important is at stake, compelling us to pay attention to aspects of our lives that might require change, action, or resolution. Understanding the purpose of anger is essential for harnessing its potential as a constructive force rather than allowing it to become destructive or uncontrolled. Anger is first and foremost a survival tool. From an evolutionary perspective, it developed as a way to help humans confront threats and assert themselves in a competitive world. When provoked, anger triggers the body's fight or flight response, sharpening focus, increasing energy, and preparing the individual to respond to challenges or danger. This response, though ancient, remains relevant in modern life. While the threats we face today may not involve physical predators or survival in the wild, The emotional and social challenges we encounter can evoke similar responses. Anger, in this sense, serves as a motivator, pushing us to address situations that feel unjust, unfair, or harmful. The protective nature of anger becomes evident when boundaries are crossed. Boundaries, whether they are physical, emotional, or moral, define the limits of what we find acceptable or safe. When these boundaries are violated, anger arises as a signal that something is wrong. It prompts us to defend ourselves, assert our needs, or reclaim a sense of control. For example, if someone repeatedly disrespects our time or effort, anger might push us to confront the issue and demand the respect we deserve. In this way, anger safeguards our sense of self-worth and autonomy, reminding us of our inherent right to stand up for ourselves and our values. Anger's purpose extends beyond immediate defense. It also plays a critical role in driving change, both on an individual and societal level. Throughout history, anger has been a catalyst for progress, inspiring people to challenge oppression, fight for justice, and demand accountability. Movements that have reshaped societies, civil rights, gender equality, and labor rights, were often fueled by collective anger in response to systemic injustices. This demonstrates anger's transformative potential when directed toward constructive action. It pushes individuals and communities to confront uncomfortable truths, question the status quo, and work toward solutions that align with their principles. On a personal level, anger can act as a motivator for growth and self-improvement. It often arises when there is a discrepancy between our reality and our expectations or desires. For instance, feeling anger at oneself for procrastinating or neglecting responsibilities can be a signal that we are not living up to our own standards. While this type of anger may be uncomfortable, it provides an opportunity for reflection and change. By examining what triggered the emotion, we can identify areas where we need to take responsibility, make adjustments, or pursue growth. In this way, anger becomes a tool for self-awareness and personal development. Anger also serves as a communicator, highlighting unmet needs or unresolved issues. It forces us to pay attention to what we might otherwise ignore or suppress. For instance, recurring feelings of anger in a relationship might indicate a deeper problem, such as a lack of communication, unaddressed conflicts, or unmet emotional needs. By recognizing and addressing these underlying issues, anger can help strengthen relationships rather than weaken them. It encourages us to engage in difficult but necessary conversations, fostering deeper understanding and connection. It is important to note that anger's purpose is not limited to external circumstances. It also reflects our internal values and priorities. What angers us often reveals what matters most to us. For example, anger in response to witnessing injustice might reflect a deep commitment to fairness and equality. Similarly, anger triggered by dishonesty might stem from a strong value for integrity and trust. By examining the source of our anger, we gain insight into our core beliefs and priorities, allowing us to live more authentically and aligned with our values.
While anger has a clear purpose, it is not without risks. When mismanaged or allowed to spiral out of control, it can become destructive, leading to impulsive actions, damaged relationships, and long-term regret. This is why it is essential to understand its purpose and channel it effectively. Anger is not a license to act recklessly or harm others. Rather, it is a call to action that must be approached with intention and awareness. Learning to regulate anger ensures that it serves its purpose without causing unnecessary harm. Anger is a deeply human emotion, one that reflects our capacity to care, to protect, and to seek justice. It is a force that, when understood and directed, can lead to positive outcomes. Whether it is setting boundaries, advocating for change, or pursuing personal growth. By recognizing anger as a purposeful emotion, we move beyond the instinct to fear or suppress it. Instead, we embrace it as a signal, a motivator, and a guide. It becomes not just an emotional response, but a tool for transformation, empowering us to face challenges, uphold our values, and strive for a better version of ourselves and the world around us. Anger is often perceived as an overwhelming and uncontrollable emotion, but in truth, it can serve as a powerful teacher, offering valuable insights into our inner world and the external circumstances that provoke us. When we allow ourselves to examine the source of our anger rather than simply reacting to it, we gain the opportunity for deep personal reflection and growth. Anger, when approached with curiosity and introspection, can reveal underlying truths about our desires, needs, and values. Rather than suppressing or expressing it blindly, we can use anger as a guide to better understand ourselves and the world around us. The first step in allowing anger to be a teacher is to pause and recognize the emotion when it arises. Often we react instinctively to anger, allowing it to dictate our actions without giving ourselves the chance to explore it. This knee-jerk reaction might lead to impulsive behavior, whether it's raising our voice, becoming defensive, or withdrawing from the situation altogether. However, by becoming aware of the anger as soon as it arises, we create the space for a more thoughtful response. This is not to say that we suppress the emotion. Rather, we acknowledge its presence and take a moment to reflect on its meaning. At the core of this reflective process is the question, what is this anger trying to tell me? Anger often emerges when our expectations or boundaries are violated, but these external triggers are only the surface. To understand the deeper message of our anger, we must look beneath the surface and ask ourselves what the anger is really about. For example, when we become angry at a colleague for not respecting our time, the immediate response may be frustration. However, by taking a step back, we might realize that the true cause of our anger is a sense of being undervalued or unappreciated. This realization is not just about the specific situation at hand, but also about a deeper desire for respect and acknowledgement in our professional relationships. By understanding this underlying need, we can address it more effectively, either by communicating our concerns directly to the colleague or reassessing the dynamics of our workplace. Anger can also teach us about the gaps between our ideals and reality. It is often fueled by a sense of injustice, unfairness, or unmet expectations. When we feel that something in our life is not aligning with our values, anger arises as a response to that discrepancy. For instance, if we find ourselves angry with a friend who repeatedly breaks promises, the anger might stem from a belief in the importance of trust and reliability in friendships. Recognizing this allows us to take action, whether that involves addressing the issue directly with the friend or reevaluating the nature of the relationship. In this way, anger serves as a reminder that we care deeply about certain values, and it prompts us to take steps to ensure that those values are respected. Another valuable insight that anger can offer is related to our sense of self-worth. When we are angry, especially in situations where we feel mistreated or disrespected, it often points to a violation of our self-esteem or personal boundaries. Anger can arise when we feel that we are not being treated with the dignity and respect that we believe we deserve. This can happen in both personal and professional relationships, where our contributions, needs, or feelings are overlooked or dismissed. By recognizing that our anger is tied to our sense of worth, we can better understand how to advocate for ourselves and ensure that our needs are met. It can also serve as an opportunity to reflect on how we perceive ourselves and whether we are allowing others to treat us in ways that align with our own standards. Anger can be an essential tool for examining our personal limitations and areas of growth. Sometimes, the things that make us angry are reflections of unresolved issues within ourselves. For example, if we become enraged by another person's arrogance or disregard for others, it might reveal something about our own insecurities or unaddressed feelings of inadequacy. This type of anger offers an opportunity for self-examination, prompting us to ask whether we are projecting our own frustrations onto others or whether the anger is pointing to areas of self-improvement. Rather than seeing the anger as an enemy, we can view it as a mirror that reflects parts of ourselves that require attention and growth. Anger can also teach us valuable lessons about forgiveness and letting go. Holding on to anger over time can lead to resentment, bitterness, and a sense of powerlessness. However, by using anger as a teacher, we can recognize that forgiveness is not about condoning another person's behavior, but about releasing the grip that anger has on us. Letting go of anger frees us from the emotional burden it carries, allowing us to heal and move forward. This process often involves a shift in perspective, recognizing that holding on to anger only keeps us tethered to the past, preventing us from living fully in the present. By choosing to let go, we reclaim our emotional autonomy and take control of our well-being. In relationships, anger can also teach us the importance of healthy communication. When we feel angry, it often signals that there are unspoken needs or frustrations that need to be addressed. Instead of allowing anger to fester and breed resentment, we can use it as an opportunity to communicate more effectively with others. Expressing anger constructively involves being honest about our feelings while remaining respectful and empathetic toward the other person. By approaching anger in this way, we create the possibility for deeper understanding and stronger connections with those around us. The key to using anger as a teacher lies in our ability to approach it with mindfulness and openness. Rather than dismissing or ignoring the emotion, we must embrace it, explore its roots, and allow it to guide us toward greater self-awareness and personal growth. Anger, when approached with curiosity, becomes more than just an emotional response. It becomes a powerful tool for transformation, helping us navigate the complexities of our lives with greater clarity and purpose. By listening to the lessons anger has to offer, we can emerge from its grip not only with a deeper understanding of ourselves, but also with a greater capacity for empathy, resilience, and positive action. Emotional regulation is one of the most crucial skills we can develop, particularly when it comes to managing intense emotions like anger. While emotions, including anger, are natural and inevitable, the ability to control and direct them is essential for maintaining personal well-being and fostering healthy relationships. Anger, in particular, is an emotion that, when left unchecked, can lead to impulsive actions, regrettable decisions, and strained interactions with others. However, with emotional regulation, we can transform anger from a destructive force into a constructive one, ensuring that it serves its purpose without causing harm. The first step in regulating anger is to acknowledge it when it arises. Often, we may feel anger without being fully aware of it. We may become tense, irritable, or frustrated. But because we haven't recognized the underlying emotion, we may act out in ways that we later regret. The key to emotional regulation is awareness, being able to identify the physical and mental signs of anger before it takes control. This can be achieved through mindfulness and self-reflection. When we are mindful of our emotional states, we can recognize the early signs of anger, such as increased heart rate, tightness in the chest, or a sense of irritation. Recognizing these cues early on allows us to pause before reacting, giving us the opportunity to choose how we want to respond, rather than allow. Once we have acknowledged our anger, the next step is to create space between the feeling and the response. This is often easier said than done, as anger has a tendency to provoke an immediate response. However, taking a moment to pause, whether it's through deep breathing, counting to 10, or stepping away from the situation, can make a world of difference. This brief pause allows us to take a step back and assess the situation objectively. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can decide how to express our anger in a way that is productive and aligned with our values. This moment of pause is crucial because it interrupts the cycle of automatic emotional reactions and gives us the opportunity to choose a more thoughtful and intentional response. Effective emotional regulation also involves recognizing the difference between the emotion itself and the behavior it might provoke. Anger, in its essence, is neither good nor bad. It is a natural emotional response to certain stimuli. However, how we choose to express that anger is what determines its impact. Anger does not have to result in aggressive behavior, shouting, or verbal attacks. Instead, it can be communicated assertively and calmly, allowing us to express our needs or frustrations without harming others. Assertiveness is the key here. It involves standing up for yourself in a clear and respectful way. By communicating our anger assertively, we can ensure that our feelings are heard while maintaining respect for the other person involved. This approach not only diffuses the intensity of the situation, but also promotes healthier communication and understanding. One of the most effective tools for regulating anger is reframing. Reframing involves changing the way we perceive a situation, thereby altering our emotional response. For instance, if we feel angry because someone has criticized us, we might reframe the situation by viewing the criticism as an opportunity for growth or as constructive feedback rather than as a personal attack. This shift in perspective can transform the emotion of anger into one of gratitude or motivation, preventing it from escalating into defensiveness or resentment. Reframing allows us to distance ourselves from the immediate emotional reaction and respond with a clearer mind, helping to prevent anger from taking control of our behavior. Another critical aspect of emotional regulation is self-compassion. Often, we become angry not only with others, but also with ourselves. We might feel angry at our own mistakes, shortcomings, or perceived failures. This self-directed anger can be particularly destructive, leading to feelings of shame, guilt, or frustration. Practicing self-compassion involves treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend. When we can accept our imperfections and mistakes without harsh self-judgment, we create a healthier emotional environment in which anger can be acknowledged and released more effectively. Self-compassion allows us to approach anger with a sense of understanding rather than allowing it to fuel negative self-talk or It is also important to recognize that anger, when not regulated, can accumulate over time, leading to chronic frustration and resentment.